Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and that murder we did not go according to plan, guys. Yeesh.
We're so methodical, and yet somehow we messed literally every part of it up. I don't know how that could have happened.
Lots of untied loose ends that are coming back at us right now. It is not going well.
Yeah, we're going to end up on a true crime podcast, I think, is what's happening. So
have those been made? Are people doing those?
I think they're somewhat popular.
Cool.
But in this season of Awesome Movie Year, we're looking at the films of 1985, and we're here at the Sundance Film Festival to talk about Grand Jury Prize winner Blood Simple from the Coen brothers, a movie about murder that does not go well, which is the Coen brothers theme.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only Coen brothers movie to ever tackle this concept.
Yeah. But it's the first one. It's their debut feature. So really starting to get into a lot of the themes and the style and many of the collaborators that we would see throughout their entire career over the next, 30 plus years.
I just love that they made a theatrical trailer for Blood Simple, like a proof of concept. It just showed a man dragging a shovel alongside a car stopped in the middle of the road back towards another man he was going to kill, and a shot of backlit gun holes in a wall. And that's how they raised the money to make this movie.
Yeah, there's a little more than that. I watched that trailer, and I read that wherever you read it also. And I thought, oh, that seems like not very much to go on for someone to give them money. And it does have a little bit. It has those shots, but it has a few other shots as well. And it looks cool. Like I could see how watching that and then presumably also reading the script, which they had written before making the trailer, could have convinced somebody that these guys know what they're doing and we should give them some money to make a movie. And Dave, for your enjoyment, Bruce Campbell is in that trailer.
Hell yeah!
And
nice. Right,
not in the movie though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we've kind of discussed this when we did Evil Dead 2, right? Where it's just these guys and Raimi were just kind of a real DIY outfit making very cool, low budget movies in the 80s that found their way.
Yeah, and you can see some of the Raimi influence. I mean, they were good friends and had been, and Raimi had his chance to make a feature before this. So I think especially there's that kind of like swooping camera that comes in from far away and rushes toward the characters. You see that a couple times in the movie, and that's a very Raimi move to make.
I agree. I thought of the same thing. Is it nods to each other? Is it just something that they both liked? I mean, they're working together in different ways. So these guys were all simpatico in the 80s.
Yeah, they definitely were. And I think it's probably a combination of those things. They've worked together and they maybe want to pay tribute to their friend, or just they thought, hey, you did this in your movie and it was cool and we're going to do it in our movie as well. And all of that. And I'm sure Raimi approved.
Hey, Josh, that is cool. Friendship is cool, guys.
Yeah. Sometimes you can do a podcast together.
Hey, we're friends again. Let's forget about that Goonies fight we just had. We're all buddies now.
Big fiasco there that challenged our friendship. And
we got through it. We got through it. Next up on our docket, solving this crisis in the Middle East.
Yeah, we can definitely make that happen. So this movie was successful as far as being this kind of small scale thing. As we said, they spent a lot of time going around trying to get the funding for this. Eventually, they did get a $1.5 million budget for this movie. It played at a lot of film festivals, including Sundance. It had premiered at the USA Film Festival in Dallas before heading to Sundance. So, building word of mouth, which is a common indie film thing, getting audiences to see it, critics, getting prizes and all that kind of stuff at these film festivals before being released. Eventually, it grossed $2.7 million at the box office on its initial release, which is not a huge amount, but it did make the budget back and a little bit more. And on this level, that's probably good enough. It eventually grossed $4.3 million total on various re-releases, which probably continue because of the popularity of the Coen brothers. And it did win at the very first ever Independent Spirit Awards. Best Director for Joel Coen, who is the only credited director.
Suck it, Ethan.
They both direct. They weren't able to be credited together until 2004, I think.
So stupid.
It was stupid, yes, especially because now I think it's much more common and easy for teams to get credited. But Joel Coen won Best Director at the Independent Spirit Awards in a tie with Martin Scorsese for After Hours. So imagine you make your first film and you win an award that ties with Martin Scorsese. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I love that because you don't think they're both such stylistic filmmakers, but in completely different ways. And they tackle crime in different ways. But if you look at something like a Goodfellas or a Wolf of Wall Street, I think the Coens are almost simpatico with those movies because there's so much, not necessarily in this one, but in other Coen murder movies, there's a lot of humor in them.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of dry humor in this movie. Maybe it's not as jokey as other later Coen movies that involve murders, but I definitely laughed at times in this movie.
And Emmet Walsh really brings some good comedic element to it. That guy's so great. It was really fun watching him in this.
Yeah, he's great in this. And he won Best Actor at that Independent Spirit Awards, the first ever Independent Spirit Awards. So, some good attention for the Coens right off the bat. And, shows that investment in them turned out well, I think.
I wish they would invest in each other again, Josh.
Yes, we will get to that. So critics also generally positive about this film. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up, and we're both big fans. And in his written review, Roger Ebert said, Blood Simple mixes its fears and guilts into an incredibly complicated plot with amazingly gory consequences. It tells a story in which every individual detail seems to make sense, and every individual choice seems logical. But the choices and details form a bewildering labyrinth in which there are times when even the murderers themselves don't know who they are. The movie has been shot with a lot of style, some of it self-conscious, but deliberately so. One of the pleasures in a movie like this is enjoying the low angle and tilt shots that draw attention to themselves, that declare themselves as being part of a movie. Is the movie fun? Well, that depends on you. It is violent, unrelenting, absurd, and fiendishly clever.
Josh, why do you hate Siskel? You never bring up Siskel in these reviews. You hate Siskel.
I think honestly, it's a logistical thing where Roger Ebert has an easily searchable website with every review that he ever wrote, and the Chicago Tribune does not, which is where Siskel wrote his reviews. And in order to find a Siskel review, you have to delve into newspaper archives that here's some behind the scenes details for you folks. I'm not always paying the subscription fees for, and especially for more recent years when there's a lot of online versions of reviews that are easy to find. When we go way back in the 40s, I tend to subscribe to that because it's tougher to find online. But that is honestly the reason, is that Siskel's reviews are just not as accessible.
Whew, that is a load off. I was wondering what this heat between you and Gene Siskel was, but now I know.
I think also Ebert was a better writer. Like, their back and forth on their TV show is great, but Ebert as a writer is usually more insightful and interesting.
You just couldn't leave it alone, Dave.
Yeah.
You had to take that last dig at Gene Siskel.
Sorry, Siskel.
Is it fun? No, it is not a fun movie. I do love the Coen brothers. Not all their movies need to be fun. But it is hard-boiled, neo-noir. It keeps you interested the whole time. You don't need this one to be fun, so I'm good with that. Those shots that call attention to themselves are, that's a classic noir trope, right? We've gone over that before. I do like the kind of twisty, turny road that they go on, and it's really like 3 different beats that add up to this greater beat, and it's like, it's complicated because it's so simple, but it all works in that way. So you're never like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Wait, how did this person get caught up in that? Why is this happening? So I was into it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I will say regarding that, were times where I think that, but then you always know why. You always learn why. Even if in an individual moment you think, why is this happening? Why is this person doing this? You will learn later why that was, and it will make sense. So, I mean, I think in that sense, yeah, it's really well constructed. I did find this movie fun. I mean, yes, it's dark and it's bleak in a way, but it has a sense of humor and it's so clever. And I think like Emmet Walsh, his performance he's having a good old
He's great.
time
Yeah,
in this
he
movie.
is.
And his character is so jovial. Even, spoilers, when he's getting like lying on the floor dying, he makes a joke at the end of the movie. So, I mean, I do think this movie is fun. I don't think that's like taking away from its seriousness or its, darkness or whatever, but it is definitely fun to watch.
Yeah, I guess when I think of fun Coen movies, I think of Lebowski, Oh Brother, and if I'm going to think of a fun murder Coen movie, I'm probably thinking of Fargo. So this is not at that level of fun, Josh. In the fun scale, Josh, Blood Simple over here, lower end, Fargo up here, higher end.
I guess, I mean, I feel like this is a lot more similar to Fargo than it is to Big Lebowski or Open
Well, we're talking about
definitely
fun.
have a lot of wackiness to them.
Yeah, we're talking about fun. I mean, obviously, but from the fun murder ones, here, Blood Simple, here, Fargo.
I'm just saying I would put those two a lot closer together.
I would too.
On that.
So for the audience, Josh is saying Blood Simple here.
Yeah.
Fargo here.
Right. Jason's really helping other people understand our analogies there.
I mean, is Miller's Crossing fun? Is No Country fun?
No Country, I think, is one where I would say maybe that's just so bleak that it's not quite. Like, it's so dark, But I think Miller's Crossing has, John Polito in Miller's Crossing talking about, you're giving me the hi-hat. Like, that is very fun.
I mean, John Polito in every Coen movie, Barton Fink, right? He's one of the great Coen players, Lebowski. And that's also part of the fun, right? I mean, I guess here it would be Frances McDormand, who we know is a Coen by marriage at this point in time. But they do always have their kind of their cadre of players that we love seeing over and over again.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun in later movies. And, other than Frances McDormand, there aren't any of those people here, but the performances are all really good in this movie, I think, even though, these actors didn't necessarily work with the Coens again.
I was surprised that, Dan Hedaya feels like a right for the Pickens Coen player, right? Like he's an offbeat, he's intense. And I think he does such a great job in this movie. I was like, man, I'm surprised he was always a great character actor, but he looks and feels like a leading man to me in this. I was surprised he wasn't getting more leading man work after I saw this. But again, great character actor who brings it here. Everyone, like you said, brings it. So
yeah, he does seem like, even as a character actor, like someone like John Polito, who could have shown up as a quirky side character in another Coen's film. But I guess there's still a chance it could still happen.
I mean, he's probably all these, him, Emmet Walsh, right? Polito. These were some of the most prolific character actors of the last 40 years.
Yeah. He certainly is not hurting for work at this point.
Well, he's also in his 80s now.
Right, and still working steadily. So, hey, if the Coens get their act together and make another film together, maybe they could get him on board.
Look, fellas, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for Hedaya.
Yeah, totally. So Janet Maslin in the New York Times said, "Black humor, abundant originality, and a brilliant visual style make Joel Coen's Blood Simple a directorial debut of extraordinary promise. Mr. Coen, who co-wrote the film with his brother Ethan, works in a film noir style that in no way inhibits his wit, which turns out to be considerable. For all the plot's potential ghoulishness, Mr. Coen often interjects the kind of visual cleverness that underscores the playful mood. The camera work by Barry Sonnenfeld is especially dazzling. So is the fact that Mr. Coen, unlike many people who have directed great-looking film noir efforts, knows better than to let handsomeness become the film's entire raison d'etre. In addition to its stylishness, Blood Simple has the kind of purposefulness and coherence that show Mr. Coen to be headed for bigger, even better things."
That review made me sad because Mr. Coen as opposed to the Coens, right? And then
But she
You
doesn't
know,
know. I mean, you wouldn't have known.
no, I wouldn't. I'm no better than Janet Maslin, Josh. I never claimed to be. I agree with
Yeah.
you. But it just makes me sad because such a stupid, arbitrary thing, and they both deserve all this credit, right?
Right. Yes.
Josh, I have a question for you. Of the solo projects, the only one I've watched since the split is The Tragedy of Macbeth, which I'm a smart guy. That one not for me. Maybe a little too much. But
Too
I know,
Shakespeare-y for you.
yeah, a little much there. Looks great, beautiful
Yes.
looking.
Yes, it does.
But you've seen the other ones. So my point is this, Josh, because I don't think anyone has ever said of the Coens as a team that they pick style over substance. It was always a match of style and substance. Did you feel with either Driveway Dolls or Honey Don't that it was substance over style as opposed to the matching of those two?
Substance over style or
Style over substance?
No. I don't think, I mean, I think the thing with them working separately that many people have pointed out is like tonally, you can see, you watch The Tragedy of Macbeth and then you watch Driveway Dolls and Honey Don't, and like the difference is stark. Joel is making a serious, dark, heavy movie. I mean, he's adapting Shakespeare, so the story comes from someone else, but it's murder, it's betrayal, it's all this stuff. And Ethan is making these like very goofy comedies where there is also murder and betrayal, but in much more the Fargo mode, or even like the Raising Arizona mode. There's not murder there, but in that kind of caper. But I think no, in both cases, they have great style. Joel shoots The Tragedy of Macbeth in black and white. And as you said, it looks great. And Ethan's films are a bit more straightforward, but they do look great too. And he's got a great eye for actors. That's one thing I feel like, even if you don't like those movies, they're really well cast. So, no, I mean, I think you can see their interests or their particular strengths as storytellers, but visually, they both do a good job, I think.
Why? Well, I mean, I guess that's something we could talk about in the legacy. Go on, Josh.
Yeah.
Go on. Do you, buddy?
As much as I love this movie, and I think we all love this movie, and critics generally did, I figured I might as well get a dissenting voice here. So Pauline Kael in The New Yorker was not a fan. She said, Blood Simple has no sense of what we normally think of as reality, and it has no connections with, quote, experience. It's not a great exercise in style either. It derives from pop sources, from movies such as Diabolique and grubby B pictures and hard-boiled steamy fiction such as that of James M. Cain. It's so derivative that it isn't a thriller. It's a crude, ghoulish comedy on thriller themes. The picture is over-calculated, pulpy yet art-conscious. It has the look of film noir, but it lacks the hypnotic feel, the heat and the dreaminess of effective noir. Even when the material leads us to anticipate something nasty, it often doesn't pay off. The movie doesn't even seem meant to have any rhythmic flow. The Coens just want us to respond to a bunch of, quote, touches on routine themes. Nobody in the movie-making team or in the audience is committed to anything. Nothing is being risked except the $1.5 million.
Man, I wonder if she rewatched it at some point. I could see, if you don't like it, that's one thing. But to say that nobody is risking anything or committing to anything, I feel like they are fully committed to this vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think for people who are anti-Coens, one of the common criticisms is that they're like kind of empty and aloof and condescending to their characters, or, that everything is delivered like in quotation marks. And I don't agree with that at all. But I think she is, early on here bringing up something that would come up from people who don't care for the Coens. But yeah, I agree with you. They're definitely committed. This is a movie that they put their everything into. I mean, they didn't know what kind of careers they would go on to have. And this is a first film where clearly they're giving it everything that they've got. And I appreciate that. I think the style is great, obviously. And to me, the one thing I wanted to get in here when she says, like, even when the material leads us to anticipate something nasty, it often doesn't pay off. Like, the subversion of expectations is a key part of this movie. Like, that's a feature, not a bug here. And it's something that her complaining about seems to see that she missed the point.
Yeah, you took it to Pauline Kael, Josh. I love that. I love that for you
this time.
Yeah.
Of the literary or filmic references she's talking about, the title is derived from Dashiell Hammett's novel Red Harvest from 1929, in which the Continental Op, I've never read it, I don't know who that is, says,
That's like to his unnamed main character, like detective.
have you read it?
No, but I have heard of that.
He said, "This damn Berg's getting me. If I don't go away soon, I'll be going blood simple like the natives."
Yeah, which I guess means sort of like losing your sense of self or getting not knowing what's going on, which refers, I guess, to the characters. You know, they behave in irrational ways, or they lose their common sense because they're too caught up in their passions for affairs or murders.
Did you guys like that line reading or notes?
Good. Yeah.
Thank
Very
you.
hard boiled. Nice.
Thank you.
Job. Yeah. So, Jason, did you have you seen? I assume we've all seen this one before. I know we're all Coen's fans here, but when did you first watch this?
I think in the early 2000s, I did a Coen's like catalog watch. So really got into them. First time I saw Fargo, I thought it was okay. That's probably the first one that I knew about, and then obviously Lebowski I saw on opening day. With our old friend Miyako, Josh. How about that?
That's nice.
And then, Oh Brother, just back to back, just my favorite movies of that time period, probably. So then in the early 2000s, I think I did like a catalog watch. And I really tried to start doing that this week. I got through, after Blood Simple, I was able to watch Raising Arizona again, and I was able to watch Fargo again. So that was just a lot of fun. And I would really, really like to keep watching as many Coen brother movies over and over again as I can. And I watched Barton Fink again, which is one of the great movies about movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did not rewatch any this week, although I had fairly recently rewatched a bunch of Coen's movies for various articles, and it would love, of course, to rewatch all of them again. Barton Fink is one that I had wanted to watch again and haven't gotten back to, and this week didn't have a chance. But yeah, it's weird, what you're saying. Like, I also saw Fargo when it first came out, maybe not in the theater, but in, on home video, and it was a huge thing. And I'm sure that was the first Coen movie I'd seen. And I really liked Fargo even from the beginning. And I remember going to see Lebowski in the theater with my sister and loving that so much, and seeing further Coens. I wasn't a big fan of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, but another one that I should probably revisit. But for whatever reason, I didn't manage to get back to this one until I watched it, like, according to my Letterboxd logs, right before reviewing the Chinese remake that came out in 2010 here.
What a man.
And
what
so,
a man.
That was what motivated me finally to watch this. And I loved it at the time. I mean, I'm glad I had that reason to get to it. And the remake's not very good. But so that wasn't until, like 2010 that I first watched this movie. And it might have been one of the, other than the Coen movies that came out afterwards, it might have been one of the few that I hadn't seen yet at that point for whatever reason.
So, just, from the changing point of view, I feel like most of the time I'm consistent, but maybe when I first saw Fargo, I wasn't, obviously a teenager, not as mature as I am now, Josh.
You are very mature now.
The most mature. 5 stars for Fargo. On this rewatch, I was like, this is just a perfect movie. Like it all just clicks perfectly.
Yeah, no, Fargo is brilliant. I was looking at my number one movie of 1996 on my top 10 list that I have, and deservedly so. I think it is. I agree with you. It is totally brilliant. So, Dave, had you seen this one, and what was your Coen's history?
Right before Buster Scruggs, I finally caught up with this and Miller's Crossing, which were the only two Coen movies I hadn't seen yet. And so I watched them both back to back. And I remember liking this one more than Miller's Crossing. I wanted to rewatch both of them again together, but I didn't have time this week. But I'm going to rewatch Miller's Crossing again. They're the only two that I have only seen once. So looking forward to watching that again. And I loved this both times. And I won't get into all of my Coen watching stories, but since you guys did, I saw The Big Lebowski on opening day with my mom. We skipped school so that I could go see it. And my science teacher was there also. He had skipped school as well. So, yeah.
Well, we should say Josh and I once went to Lebowski Fest when it was here in Las Vegas, which featured an after-hours bowling party at, I think it was Brooklyn Bowl, maybe. And
no, I don't think Brooklyn Bowl was existed then.
Wherever it was, the Orleans, who knows? But
yeah, something like that.
Liam was there, the Jesus' bowling partner. He was just off of knee surgery, and he said he wouldn't bowl. But I kind of cajoled him, and he rolled one ball, Dave, and it was a strike. He mic dropped us as only Liam could.
Amazing.
That is, yeah. You know what? I remember going to that. I don't remember that specific instance, so that is amazing. But I remember lots of people in bathrobes as the dude, and that was a fun time. I still have my Lebowski Fest T-shirt that I wear sometimes. So
Nice.
Good stuff. Jason, anything else you want to mention about the background of this movie?
Well, I think we kind of covered most of it. This kind of idea of, the dummy trailer, the idea of them and Raimi both kind of trying to make movies at the same time. The only other thing I would say is this is both the first feature for Francis McDormand and for the music supervisor and composer, Carter Burwell. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly, Josh, these guys were editing their own movies under the name Roderick Janes at this time.
Yeah, I mean, they still do. And this is Roderick Janes actually shares the editing credit with a real person here. But I think going forward, it was always just them doing the editing themselves under that name. So like Steven Soderbergh, who uses all those
Peter or whatever.
Peter Andrews. And he also uses one, Helen something, I think, as an editor. But then that one. The Coens never work as their own cinematographers, I don't believe. But that's something Soderbergh does here.
Yeah, I mean, they're heavily into the Roger Deakins game.
Yeah. I mean, and Barry Sonnenfeld does great work here as the cinematographer. So
I want to talk about that. Yeah,
we will. We'll get into that when we come back and talk more of our general thoughts on Blood Simple. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1985, we are talking about Sundance Film Festival winner Blood Simple from the Coen brothers. And it really is amazing to me, like as a first feature here, how fully formed this is. Like if you watched all the other Coen brothers movies and then came back to this, it would seamlessly fit in. Sometimes you see these debuts from really notable filmmakers and you're like, they're still kind of figuring things out, or this is they're mimicking someone else, or they're not quite grasping how they do things or whatever, but they just hit on all cylinders here from the beginning.
Yeah, clear vision and a blueprint for so much of what they do going forward. Even in the more wacky ones, you're getting a lot of similar takes. The other big thing for me is, obviously, we all like this movie. This wouldn't even crack my Coen's top 5, which just shows at what a level they worked at consistently as a team. But it's still, whatever. Second, I'm not even going to call it second rate because it's a very good movie, but a 6 through 10 Coen's is still better than most everybody else's movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know where I would put it exactly in my list, but I agree with you that almost all of their movies are just on that level, that it's hard to you rank them, and even lower down in the ranks, those movies are still fantastic. There's only a handful of Coen brothers movies that I don't think are very good, and even those, I feel like I was saying about Oh Brother Where Art Thou, like if I watched them again, maybe I would appreciate them more. Maybe Hail Caesar would work for me this time that it didn't last time, or whatever. But so many of them are just so good and use so many of the elements here, as we're joking about. The murder that goes wrong is a very common Coen's element, storytelling aspect, but they always find new angles on it. It doesn't feel like, they just repeated Blood Simple in another movie.
Yeah, I think they're the modern heroes of noir, right? Neo-noir, and they do it in many different ways, right? I think, this, obviously, Miller's Crossing. I think you could say Barton Fink has noir elements, even Lebowski with its wackiness. Of course, No Country in its own way is a Western noir. So, Man Who Wasn't There, they're the noir filmmakers of the last 40 years, I'd say.
Yeah, but they really do so much more than that. And I think that's the thing, is that this maybe is more of a straightforward neo-noir than those other movies that you mentioned, which bring in all sorts of other aspects to them. But, they're always synthesizing those elements in various ways and not just going straight ahead.
I have a question for you, because we're talking about there are other filmmakers around this time and kind of who they were compadres with. Did you feel a Michael Mann influence on this? Because I'm watching it and I'm seeing these colors and these shots and the way the music is used. And it feels like, yes, going forward, Michael Mann, Manhunter, stuff like that. But even going back to Thief, which I think is so stylized and kind of tackles certain crime elements that they tackle, I felt like there was a little Michael Mann in this.
Yeah, maybe a little. I mean, I think more, right. Like, we talked about Raimi and they're clearly influencing each other because of being friends and being collaborators. But yeah, I could see that maybe early Michael Mann, not so much where Michael Mann went. And also, you don't know. I mean, at the time that this one movie came out, the Coens, their career could have gone in various directions. And who knows, if they were different kinds of filmmakers or different kinds of people, they could have scaled up in the way that Michael Mann did and made movies like that, made more crime movies that got more elaborate. And that was obviously not what they wanted to do. And I think what they did was great. And I can't imagine the Coens making a movie like Heat, but just judging from this one, maybe you could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, their heist movie was not
and it was nothing like Heat. So. Yeah.
No, that was just an interesting point. But I mean, I mentioned music, and obviously Burwell and the Coens, geniuses of using music in film. Everything from Same Old Song being played in the bar as a repeat, and they're iconic. Probably in every movie, there's probably like an iconic song that becomes iconic to film because of the use in the Coen brothers movie.
Yeah, I mean, Lebowski is a great example of that, and so many of the songs in that and that are sort of these weird left field choices, whether it's a cover or a lesser known song that become essential to the storytelling in that movie. And I think Same Old Song here really has that, where not only, I mean, it's a great song and it's catchy and it's not obscure, it's a well-known song.
It's not the same old song. It's a great song.
But it's a great song. But I think the content of it, the idea of like, this familiar thing is different because of different circumstances really applies to the storytelling of the movie, that it thematically fits, not only just as a catchy song to get you in the mood for a scene or whatever, but if you think about the lyrics, it applies to the way that these characters are misconstruing things, or just that their circumstances change because they change, or they change because the circumstances change. It's similar, but it's different. And I think that song applies there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. One other thing that as we're also kind of versed in Coen brothers, like going forward, we talked about this company of actors, and not just that, just the sprawling cast that they have, right? So it's kind of interesting to watch this because it's four characters with a fifth that kind of is chilling in the background, and that's really different than most Coen brother movies, I think.
Yeah, but I think also you're right. It is, and that may be partially at least a budget thing that they're working on this small scale. But I love that even with that small scale, you get these great Coen moments of side characters. You mentioned, you said the fifth character, that's Sam Art Williams' character, the bartender, who's kind of this ladies' man. And I love there's one scene where he goes home and he listens to his messages, and the plot purpose of that is to get the message from the bar owner, Dan Hedaya, saying, hey, somebody stole money from the safe. But the first message is it's a Holly Hunter cameo, is from this woman who's like obviously mad at him. And she's like, you better come, I'm not waiting for you. I'm going to South America tomorrow. And just in that one moment, you get this little glimpse of like, oh, this guy had his whole other life. Like, this is a fully formed character who's doing all sorts of stuff outside of the scope of the movie. And there's another moment when Frances McDormand's character, she's going to rent herself an apartment, and she walks in and there's this guy sitting on a cot and he's all, surly. And she's like, are you sure that this apartment isn't occupied? And the landlady's like, oh, that's my ex-brother-in-law. He moved out yesterday. And again, like the ex in front of brother-in-law, just like these little moments show you how much of a world there is beyond our story.
You get that in the bar also. Maurice, the bartender, is talking to this blonde woman, and Dan Hedaya comes up and is like, hey, you should just forget about him and come out with me tonight, right? And hey, but this has already been referenced that they're old friends, that Maurice and the woman are old friends. And then, of course, we find out that they had just met.
Right.
So lots of fun there. That said, those four are all heaters, man. Emmet Walsh and Hedaya, and of course, Frances McDormand, who never went on to do anything after this, which is a shame. And John Getz all just bring it. Holly Hunter was interesting because after rewatching Raising Arizona and thinking of Oh Brother, I'm like, I want more of this team as well.
Yeah, and on Holly Hunter was Frances McDormand's like good friend and roommate. So the reason presumably she was just doing a little favor here in this movie. And given that they were such good friends and they kind of started out together as actors, and Frances McDormand's connection to the Coens, it is maybe a little surprising that we haven't seen more Holly Hunter in Coen's movies, but maybe in the future.
We're all hoping. I like one element I really like about this is, as we know, they're so great at creating a setting. And I don't mean, I always talk about use of environment, but I'm talking about like specific settings that add to the story. Bowling alley, Lebowski, right? So in this one, I think that incinerator that we just see in the distance and we come back to and becomes such a huge element of the plot is, watching something like There's No Country for Old Men and the oil rigs and kind of the derricks and what they mean is it feels very akin and like that you could tell just how thought out everything was ahead of time, like you were saying, from a character standpoint, from an environment standpoint, from a music standpoint. Like there are some of the most methodical filmmakers that there are, which is really unique considering how crazy some of their films get.
Yeah, I mean, it is all very methodically planned, and I think those small moments really, really show you that. And one thing I love about the incinerator, and this goes back to what Pauline Kael was complaining about, but I think as a viewer, you see that and you think, oh, somebody's getting incinerated in this movie. And no one gets incinerated in the movie. Actually, the incinerator plays a very minor part in the story. And the only use for it that we see related to the murders is when Ray, John Getz's character, throws his clothes in it, and a towel, like his jacket and towel that he used to clean up the blood. But other than that, no bodies go in the incinerator. It is just this background thing. But it is, I think, like you said, a great background detail because it creates this environment of this very desolate, like what kind of town do you live in where there's just this constantly running incinerator out in some parking lot? Like this is a bleak place to live. And I think it really contributes to that.
I love all that stuff. You know that about me, Josh. Incinerating human beings I'm talking about.
Sure. One of your favorite hobbies.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to do it. I mean, I think like if you're going to find a fault here, I think some of the stuff on the highway goes on for a little too long, back and forth. But, if people don't know what we're talking about with these twists and turns, we're going to start spoiling it. You have this kind of lecherous, mean bar owner, Julian Marty, played by Hedaya. His girlfriend is Frances McDormand.
His wife, they're married.
Okay, they're married. And, he does not treat her well, of course. She is having an affair with Ray, played by John Getz. Hedaya knows about this, so he hires Emmet Walsh, who is a private investigator, plays Lauren Visser, just to track him and to confirm it. Then when he finds out they're having an affair, he, is paying Emmet Walsh the small sum, I would say, of $10,000 to murder both of them.
Yeah, I wondered that. That was one thing in that scene where at first it seems like Emmet Walsh, the private investigator, is not I mean, I know he's going to because I've seen the movie before, but I didn't remember the details. And Marty is like, I'll pay you $10,000. And I was like, he's going to ask for more money. And he just is remarkably easygoing about agreeing to do this murder for $10,000, even though, as we see later, he doesn't do the murder that he gets paid for, but he does still do a murder. He still ultimately kills somebody so that he can get $10,000.
And that's the question, because he gets more than $10,000 in the long run also.
I guess that's true.
So was he just
asked for it?
He could have, but was this just like his long game? I'm going to set this whole thing up and grift this guy and take his money and murder and incinerate him. That's a question.
I guess, but he doesn't. I mean, that's he also, like, for being theoretically the one person in this who is a professional, like, he does not follow through, right? He shoots Marty, and as we learn later, Marty isn't really dead. But even if he was, he just leaves the body sitting in a chair, doesn't incinerate it, doesn't do anything with it. I guess the idea there is that he's sort of trying to frame Frances McDormand because he uses her gun.
That definitely was the idea,
reason,
yes.
The reason that Ray later thinks that she did it. But he doesn't seem concerned about fingerprints, right? He doesn't wear any gloves. He leaves behind his lighter, which is a mistake. But even that aside, like his fingerprints are all over this gun. They're all over the safe. They're all over everything in this whole place.
Yeah, you would think the Coens, there'd have to be a reason for that, but I don't know what the reason is because they're so, careful. And he was clearly more careful with his setup than his follow through, the character, right? So, but that's where it starts going all wacky, not wacky, but like, hey, I think that she must have killed him. So now me, Ray, I have to go and get rid of the evidence. And that's where you get to the real grisly stuff when Marty wakes up in the car and the Ray character has to decide, am I going to bash his head in with a shovel? Am I going to let him live? What am I going to do? And then, he buries him alive. It doesn't get more morbid than that.
Right. And if he's too squeamish, like I feel like being beat over the head with a shovel is preferable to being buried alive.
Right. I don't want
ways to die go.
Dave, if you're ever going to kill one of us, beat us over the head with a shovel. Don't do the other thing.
Burying alive would be a lot of work, so you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, that's quite a way to die. Like, really, the best would be if you just got shot and then die immediately, instantly. Like, if someone's a better shot than that PI is. But
I'll still take dying in my sleep.
Well, right. But if you're going to get murdered, or if you're going to get murdered in the multiple fashions in which Marty sort of almost gets murdered in this movie, like, I feel like that would be the best one to just, boom, you're shot, you're dead, that's over.
So speaking about murders, right, in the end, we get this confrontation between Abby and the detective, the Emmet Walsh character. And he's basically now trying to tie up all the loose ends and get the money. So he's going to kill her. And she's got this sprawling apartment that you talked about. And what she does is she climbs out a window into another room and he's reaching to see where she is. And she like stabs his hand, right? And kind of gets him stuck because his hand is now stabbed into the windowsill. And I really thought, having seen this and not remembered, I thought she was going to run around and push him out the window. I thought that would have been a fitting end for the character and a grisly end for the character.
But that whole scene is great because he is stuck and then he starts, shooting through the wall so that he can punch through it. But his hand is still stuck and it is fantastic. Yeah. And I think the way that it goes is perfect rather than her, because she's scared still, she's not necessarily going to run in there and push him out the window. She's trying to stand back. And, she waits for the moment when he frees himself and he's about to come out the door and then she shoots him like through the door. And when he's lying there dying. So I think that makes sense for her character. And it does give him that great final line when she says, to tell Marty, and he's like, well, I'll give him the message, when I see him in the afterlife or whatever.
She says, tell Marty I'm not scared of him, right?
Right.
Or no, what she says is, Marty, I'm not scared of you.
Yeah.
So she thought it was Marty who was coming to kill her. She didn't even realize that at that point in time. And then when he says, I'll tell him if I see him, that's when it occurs to her that wasn't Marty who was in.
Oh, see, I wasn't sure that she thought it was Marty, but that she thought Marty was still alive and this guy was working with Marty.
I thought that it was Marty. I could see how you could interpret it that way. This kind of leads to a point, Josh. Did you think there was a little too much back and forth between Ray and Abby of like, not confronting the issue? Like, I did what you needed because you did that thing. What thing? No, the thing. Like, maybe if they had been a little more direct, like that eliminates some of this conflict. But I felt like at some point we probably needed that direct conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it fits, first of all, with the noir tone where they speak in this kind of cryptic way. But also, I think it makes sense for a character is that Ray's perspective is like, hey, you killed this guy and I was forced to deal with the aftermath of it because you didn't do what was necessary. And he thinks that she knows that. So her saying like, I don't know what you're talking about, to him is not indicating like, oh, she doesn't know what I'm talking about and I need to explain it to her, but is her being like frustrating and difficult. And so it makes him clam up even more. So I feel like that makes sense. And you have that great moment, so many of these little things that come back where earlier when Marty is talking to Ray about the fact that Ray has, stolen his wife or whatever. And Marty is saying like, oh, you just wait, she's going to sleep around with all these other people. And you'll get to the point where you say like, what are you doing? And she'll be like, I didn't do anything funny. And he's saying it in the context of cheating, of sleeping with someone else. But when Ray basically says like, hey, you did this, I cleaned up your mess, she says that exact thing. I didn't do anything funny. And that's like a trigger for him, I think. So it puts him more in that place.
All right. I accept.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But I know I think you and I share the frustration of certain movies where it's like this whole plot could be like cleared up if these characters would just have a direct conversation for a minute.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that can be frustrating. But I think when it makes sense from a character standpoint that like they're not doing that because of their like personal flaws, I am okay with it.
What's your biggest personal flaw, Josh?
Oh, we don't have time. We got, too many movie things to talk about on this podcast. Can't get into all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what other aspect of this movie we want to talk about. I feel like I could just go on about just like all of these little things. There's this great shot where they're doing this sort of tracking shot across the bar. And in the middle of the bar, there's this drunk passed out and the camera just like jumps over him and then goes back down across the bar. It's just such a little thing, but it's so beautiful and so cleverly calculated. And that's just it's like a little visual joke, but it's so elegant and it's so cleverly planned. And if you're not paying attention, maybe you wouldn't notice it, but the Coens notice it. They know what they're doing there. And it's beautiful.
I mean, they have so many iconic shots that, we're in the bowling ball in Lebowski or something I noticed here. And I'm wondering, I don't know the exact kind of meaning of it, but in Barton Fink, you go down the sinkhole with the character in like a dream sequence or like through his point of view at some point. And here they do a lot of that sink stuff too. What is this sink obsession, Josh?
I don't know. Yeah, the final shot of this is like the dripping from below the sink from Emmet Walsh's POV. So I don't know. Lebowski has all of the porn with the plumbing, right? Isn't there?
Carl Hungus.
Right. What happens next? He fixes the plumbing. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe the Coens, maybe they wanted to be plumbers.
They have some sink-like obsession. Josh.
I don't know. I'll have to see. There's probably some academic paper about the motif of plumbing in Coen Brothers movies.
I would like, please update this in the epilogue, what we find out about Coens and their plumbing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we've praised the acting here. The acting is all really, really good. And so much of what happens here is without dialogue or with that kind of cryptic dialogue like we were talking about. But you really understand the motivations and the emotions of these characters. And then Emmet Walsh comes in and he's talking and talking and talking. And it's a perfect counterpoint. So, I mean, just again, like visually, but also working with these actors, the Coens have everything locked in right from the beginning.
They're good.
They are good. So, Dave, any thoughts you want to share?
Well, I loved everything about it and everything you guys have been talking about. I'll just throw one extra shot in there, which is speaking about right from the beginning. It's the opening credit sequence where they're in a car talking and it's raining outside the car and it's nighttime. And every new set of headlights that passes the car brings another credit, another actor in the cast. And then the windshield wipers wipes them away. And it's just one of those like clever little things where you're just like, oh yeah, we're in a Coen Brothers movie. This is great.
Yeah, that's like the moment the movie begins, you're already there. They're already on exactly what, showing they know exactly what they're doing.
I have a question for you. If you were going to pair this with any other Coen movie, would it be No Country because of the Texas kind of murder mystery? Or which Coen Brothers movie would you pair this with if you were going to double feature it?
I would do The Man Who Wasn't There, which is another murder, like relationship jealousy movie. Things go wrong, small town, it's not Texas, but that would be and I love that movie. That I've rewatched fairly recently, is so good. So Dave, what would you pick?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it fits right between Fargo and No Country. So I would just be pulling back and forth between those two. I'd probably go Fargo, but yeah, I mean, you could go anywhere in between.
Yeah. So all good choices. If you're not familiar with the Coen Brothers, watch all those movies. They're great.
Oh, yeah.
Although I feel like if you love movies and you listen to this podcast, you definitely are familiar with the Coen Brothers.
No. Dave's wife, Gina, hates the Coen Brothers.
Is that true, Dave?
Kind of, yeah.
It is true. Let's talk about it in the next segment after we rate this thing, Josh.
We'll do it.
Out of 5 jukeboxes.
Oh, yeah, sure. The jukebox where we hear that song over and over again. I give it 4 jukeboxes out of 5. This is a great movie, and it is I mean, is it one of the Coen's best movies? Like almost all of them are their best, but it is fantastic. So 4 out of 5 from me.
I'm a fan as well, not as much as a fan as you. I gave it 3.5 jukeboxes, but I say watch all the Coen movies, even the bad ones, which are only 2 bad ones, really. So.
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah, but I agree. Whatever you think the bad ones are, they're still worth watching. So, Dave, how do you rate this?
4.5, and it fits in at number 9 on my list, which means that there are 8 movies that are above 4.5 for me.
Amazing. So Dave, you actually made a list.
I did make a list. Yes.
I should do that. But I feel like I would.
We should all do that. More again. But I would rewatch all of them. But Dave, I want to hear Dave's list when we come back, Josh.
All right, we'll come back and talk about the legacy of Blood Simple. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1985, we're talking about Sundance Grand Jury Prize winner Blood Simple from the Coen brothers. And, we've talked, this has been just like a whole Coen overview episode almost. We did talk about them way back in an early season when we did an episode on No Country for Old Men. But, we've talked about a lot of favorites, but Dave, you do have a whole list. Yeah. Jason wants to hear the whole
I want to hear
breakdown list. Sure, I'll go through it real quick. I will just say there's a few that I haven't seen in a long time. I really should rewatch them. But that being said, just off the top, Big Lebowski, number 1. No Country for Old Men. Inside.
Hold on one second. You're supposed to go from bottom to top, so you get but now it doesn't matter. Don't you know how to add drama to anything, bro?
Okay, fine. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back.
It's too late now, but go ahead.
Intolerable Cruelty.
We could cut the earlier segment and start from here if you really want to.
I didn't include any of the solo projects. Intolerable Cruelty, number 18. True Grit, number 17. I know a lot of people love it. I'm not that big in it. So, Buster Scruggs, 16. 15, The Man Who Wasn't There. The Lady Killers, 14. I know everybody hates it, but I enjoy it. Hail Caesar, 13. Hudsucker Proxy, 12. Miller's Crossing, 11. Burn After Reading, 10. Blood Simple, 9. Barton Fink, 8. Raising Arizona, 7. Serious Man, 6. Oh Brother, 5. Fargo, 4. Inside Llewyn Davis, 3. No Country, 2. Lebowski, 1. So I can see my bottom of the list is some feathers are getting ruffled.
Right.
Here, but
yeah. But I think we all love, I would agree. I would put Lebowski at number 1. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies of all time, period, of all movies. So,
I think we all agree on that. I mean, Dave, I would say your 18 through 14 are wacky, but otherwise, hard to find fault. But I'll tell you who I do find fault with, Dave, your wife, Gina, who, when I posted in the Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces group, hey, tell us about your Coen brothers thing. She said, I hate the Coen brothers. And one of the things she said is that they only write men and they don't write quality women characters. And that is insane and completely off base. Why do you put up with that in your house, Dave?
I don't. I put the smack down, but then, then she gets on Facebook and, does whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. How many movies? I feel like, maybe she saw just a small number and didn't like them.
2 or 3. Yeah. So, I one of these days we're going to make it happen. We're going to watch some more of these movies, and I think she'll be a fan.
Lots of great women characters throughout the Coen canon, Josh.
Yeah. I mean, starting with Abby, with Frances McDormand in this movie is a great character.
So, and everyone that she's in with them, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think you could argue that maybe male characters are more prominent overall in Coen Brothers movies, whether or not there is a Coen Brothers movie that unequivocally has a female main character. I'm not sure. Maybe True Grit. And that's one she should see. I know, Dave, you don't really like, but Haley Steinfeld, so amazing in that movie.
She's great.
That is a great character.
She's great.
No, I mean, I'm going to say, I know she doesn't come in it for the first half hour, but Frances McDormand in Fargo, also the main character of that film, I'd say.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's fair, I think. And even whether she is or isn't the main character, she is a fantastic character in that movie. And, a female character with agency who has an interior life and who, gets one over on a lot of those male characters in that film. So, we'll have to. But I understand the idea that, for me too, if I watched 2 or 3 movies from a filmmaker and I didn't like any of them, I wouldn't be rushing out to see.
Well, I mean, how could she have time watching so many quality Lifetime movies and all the stuff that she's watching? The point is, Dave, your wife has terrible taste in everything.
Oh, boy.
So, as we've referenced, the Coens sadly have kind of drifted apart professionally. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs in 2018 is the last movie they made together. They've done solo stuff since then. Joel's film, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Ethan's films with his wife, Trisha Cook, who is a co-writer. And as I've read a bit, it might almost be an early Coen situation where she is essentially the co-director but doesn't get credit for it. Whether or not it's exactly the same, I don't know, but she's very heavily involved. Drive Away Dolls and Honey Don't. And people are not fans of those. I enjoyed Drive Away Dolls, and I even enjoyed aspects of Honey Don't, even though it doesn't work. So, Dave, I think you've seen those, right?
Yeah, I was mixed on Drive Away Dolls. Overall, I liked it, but Honey Don't is terrible.
I think most people feel that way. Drive Away Dolls gets like a pass from people. Some people like that one. I think Joel who also did the Jerry Lee Lewis documentary.
No, that's also Ethan. That's Ethan. Yeah.
Look, none of the projects we mentioned have any of the resonance of what they did together, and we need them back. America needs you as a team, Coen brothers. We need you as a team.
And it's interesting because Ethan did a lot of interviews when Honey Don't was coming out, and all the time he's saying, there's no falling out. There's no conflict. Like, we plan to work together again. We want to work together again. We have all these projects that we have in mind to work on, and it just has to be the right moment for it. And yet they're not. Joel is currently making his next solo film. It's a period mystery film called Jack of Spades that stars Josh O'Connor, Frances McDormand, Leslie Manville, and Damian Lewis. And I look forward to seeing that. I hope that Ethan and Trisha Cook get to make their third movie in their supposed lesbian B-movie trilogy. Even if I was disappointed in Honey Don't, I want to see Go Beavers and let them complete that. And I'm definitely excited to see Jack of Spades too.
When I think of lesbian B movies, I have a totally different thing in my mind.
All right. Well, there's some of that spirit in these movies.
Yes, I agree. I mean, some of the most awarded filmmakers that there are won Best Original Screenplay for Fargo, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay for No Country. Barton Fink won the Palme d'Or. So I'm also looking forward to Jack of Spades, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, and even if that is good, I agree with you that the better thing would be for them to work together. And I hope that they will eventually down the road.
We mentioned, Josh, that the kind of Roger Deakins collaboration, but Barry Sonnenfeld has an amazing run in the 80s as a director of photography. After shooting porn, Josh, this is kind of his first major motion picture. After this, it was Raising Arizona, When Harry Met Sally, 3 O'Clock High, Miller's Crossing, Big, Misery, Throw Mama from the Train. The only one I don't really know is Compromising Positions.
Yeah, I don't know that either, but he was a great director of photography. I don't know if we talked about him when we did our When Harry Met Sally episode, but I think he also initially seemed like he could be a great director. I mean,
he had a hot run, in the 90s. Come on.
Yeah, with his Addams Family movies and Get Shorty, those are great. And then he kind of drifted away.
Well, he did Men in Black franchise, which was his big thing too. Yeah,
true. But a lot of his later stuff as a director is pretty bad, and then he just kind of wasn't getting much work as a director for a while. I did think he did a great job. The first season of Schmigadoon, he directed all of that and has a lot of great style. Is probably the best thing he did in years. And great show.
That was fun. We mentioned Carter Burwell, his first work as a kind of film score. He's got nods for Best Original Score for Carol, Todd Haynes' movie, and for Martin McDonough, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Not my favorite at all, but The Banshees of Inisherin I love.
Yeah, and of course, Frances McDormand won an Oscar for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, as well as for Fargo and Nomadland. I mean, she's amazing. She's been in a ton of Coen Brothers movies, of course, not because she's married to Joel. I mean, she's a great actress, but obviously they have a very fruitful collaboration. We talked about her probably just briefly in our episode on Lone Star, where she has a very memorable, single scene turn, but she's fantastic.
She's like one of the most awarded people ever, dude. She's also got a Best Picture Oscar because she produced Nomadland.
Yes. Yeah. She's, and I mean, continuing to do great work. And I'm sure she'll be great in the new Joel Coen film.
No, she's great in everything. She's as good as it gets, Josh.
Yes. And speaking of Getz, John Getz.
Hey-o! Boom.
Like Dan Hedaya, both of them, like very prolific character actors, still working steadily. John Getz recently did episodes of A Man on the Inside and The Pit. Dan Hedaya, as you said, he's 85, but he's still working. I always remember him most as Alicia Silverstone's dad in Clueless and also in Alien Resurrection, where he's wearing this tank top that really shows off his hirsuteness in a distracting way.
That's interesting because I always think of him as Nick Tortelli, Carla's husband on Cheers, and as Richard Nixon in Dick.
Yes, yeah, that is a classic one as well. So he has that, like we were saying, he has that distinctive quirkiness that I feel like could be put to good use in the Coen brothers films. And
he's great.
They never did.
Hey, Josh, I have a trivia question for you. What movie have we talked about on this show that Emmet Walsh was in?
Well, we've talked about 4 movies on this show with Emmet Walsh, and I don't know how much we talked about him in those episodes because, he's this character actor who shows up in these small parts, but he is in our most popular episode ever on Alice's Restaurant. Mm-hmm. And he's also in Slapshot and Ordinary People and Wild Wild West, all of which we've done episodes on.
I read this about Emmet Walsh. He habitually distributed $2 bills to the set's crew with some advice. Don't spend it and you'll never be broke. Oh, delightful yarn, Emmet.
That's nice. My great grandma used to send me $2 bills for my birthday.
I just got tipped a $2 bill recently.
Oh, that's crazy. I don't know what happened to the ones that I had. I guess I probably spent them. I was a kid and I was probably like, $2? What can I buy with this? And I just spent it.
Sam Art Williams nominated for his play for a Tony and a Drama Desk Award called Home.
Yeah, and he's more of I didn't realize this, but he is mainly he did a bit of acting, but he's mainly a playwright and a TV writer and producer. And seeing his name in the credits, I was like, oh, I know that guy. I'm sure I've seen him as an actor in other movies, but really I know his name because he was one of the main producers of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which I watched every single episode of. And I'm sure I saw his name pop up every time I watched that.
Josh is a completist for all Drama Desk nominees, Dave.
Yeah, I was just a big Fresh Prince guy as a kid. I think for some reason I quite enjoyed that show, which probably does not hold up.
It holds up. Come on,
doubtful.
Well, see, Josh, he was raised in West Philadelphia,
right? No,
and he spent most of his time, on the playground, right? But never mind.
We don't need to do the whole theme song. But the last thing I mentioned, the Chinese remake directed by Zhang Yimou, who is one of the major filmmakers in China. But it's a real miss. I think I was looking up my review of it from when I first wrote about it, and it for some reason sets it in like the historical past. So it's like they're using a gun that's almost like a single load musket type thing, and it has a lot of like slapstick in it. He adds like extra comic relief characters and seems to have kind of missed the point of this movie, but the Coens apparently liked it, so that's cool.
I wish they would like each other again.
Maybe they will. That is our takeaway here, right? Our plea for the Coens to work together again.
We're driveway dolls who are driving right towards the current reunion. I got nothing.
I hope so. They keep, again, every time Ethan is like, oh, we want to make this horror movie, or like everything they describe about what they want to do together, I'm thinking like, let's have it.
I mean, I don't buy any of it. They're the Coen brothers. They can make whatever they want whenever they want at this point in time.
Yeah, maybe. Although if you look on their like Wikipedia, there's a massive section of unrealized, things that they were trying to make that they couldn't get the financing for, or they couldn't get the rights for, or whatever. Yeah. So I think even the Coen brothers have trouble getting money for stuff. Unfortunately.
What a world.
Yeah.
What a world.
So anything else you want to say about the legacy of this movie, Jason?
No, I think the main point is watch every Coen brothers movie. That's what we all agree on. We all agree on that, Josh. All of us. We do. And we should all sit down, Gina, and do that Clockwork Orange thing where we put her eyes up there and just make her watch it so she understands.
That'll work. That'll get her to enjoy it, I think. Yeah, totally. So that is Blood Simple, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can murder us online and on social media.
Please don't. We're at awesomemovieyear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Jason Harris Comedy on all those things, or Jay Harris Comedy. You can find me on Letterboxd at Go for Jason. If you review one of our movies or want to comment on it, just tag it with Awesome Movie Year.
You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I'm at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Blue Sky and on Letterboxd. And check out our producer David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at PiecingPod.
Jason, what's in our next episode?
Well, Josh, talking about companion pieces to Blood Simple, I think there's no better one than the Best Picture winner of 1985, Sidney Pollack's Out of Africa.
Yeah, that's probably wrong, but we'll find out. So tune in next time for Out of Africa, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.